The following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Matters because under the Municipal Act, all municipal power is exercised only by council and only by resolution. And that means that the mayor works for council. Now, the council tends to think that they work for the residents. And as a result, we have kind of a three-layer government in the town of Oakville. With me today are the leaders of three of our residents' associations, Pierre Girouard from the River Oaks Residents Association, and Dave Mallen from Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association, and Craig Schiller from the West River Residents Association. Gentlemen, I really appreciate you joining us here today. After we chat, I will take your concerns, as I always do, to council, but we'll do it on TV. And the residents and the viewers will be able to see council discuss the concerns that you raise here with me. I thought that since it's important to Oakville residents that they be well treated by the town and the region, we might have a discussion about how we could improve how residents are treated by the people who serve them at the town and the region and the police for that matter. So Pierre and Dave and Craig, what are your ideas for making sure that we're serving our residents in the best possible way?
Well, okay, I'll get started. First, I have to say that there's a lot of positive things already. I love the process that's been established in Oakville of getting feedback from the resident association and feedback from the public in general. I'm going to take the opportunity to mention a few things which could be improved.
Good.
I had to educate myself on the various tiers of government and who does what, because residents have been concerned about things which not only the council or the city of Oakville has to deal with, but what Halton deals with, and also provincial and federal government. For example, cell phone towers, aircraft noise. And for Oakville and Halton, you've done, I think, an excellent job of coordinating. However, it'd be good if there was some information available at the Oakville site of things which you don't deal with, but also being able to direct us to the right place.
That's an excellent suggestion. So where we have put our energy into listing the things that we do, it might be good to list the things that other people do so that it's one-stop research.
It would be great.
Yeah, that would include not only the region, but the province and the Canadian government as well, so that for someone who has an inquiry but don't know who to turn to, they have a ready reference list and they can simply look at it and say, that's who I need to speak to.
So that sounds a great idea. I can't wait to see if council would agree with it. I'm pretty sure we could predict they will. But that would make our site the most useful site of all.
There's no harm in that.
No harm in that. Anything else?
I'd just like to compliment you a little bit on your personal and the council's willingness to listen to the residents' associations. We think we bring a little bit of a different viewpoint at times, and we have, in as much as we represent our residents, had a good hearing, and people have listened at the elected level. And times when personally I've been dealing with the building department or the planning department, either personally or on behalf of TCRA, again, the reception has always been good and polite and helpful, and we appreciate that, and it encourages us to participate in the democratic process.
And your area certainly has quite a number of live files with the town, with planning, not least of which is what's going to happen to the old hospital site, and the general desire, not just in your area, but all of Southeast Oakville, for a community center there.
It's very true, and we're pleased that we have been heard at Council, and that we're able to have a continuing dialogue over these issues, which are of great concern to many people in the community.
Yeah. Well, the Council, I can say, is very, very interested in trying to get decisions made that will be long-lasting and strong, and that people will want. Like I've said a couple of times, Council and I are not in the business of doing things to make people mad at us. Craig, you've been a long-time participant in the Community Leaders Roundtable, which is a monthly meeting of all of you resident leaders and myself and my staff. And we started that back in, I think, 2009, if I remember correctly, in the middle of the gas plant emergency, just to keep the residents associations informed. But then it grew into the wonderful thing that it is now, where I don't tell you what we're up to, which is how we started. You tell me what you're up to, and we share information. How and you've stayed with it all these years. You're like the vet, right? So can you think of ways to improve what we're doing?
Well, I'm not sure there's any way to improve those meetings, and I just wanted to make a comment in a more general sense that, as somebody who grew up in New York and in a previous life was a video production specialist for the San Francisco State Library System, I can tell you that I have some experience with surly municipal workers. And I'm very happy to say that I have never, in all my experience with anybody working in Oakville, run into a stinker. Everybody has just been very helpful and polite and really a joy to work with, and I think it's quite remarkable. And I think part of that is due to leadership on your part.
Well, Council is very, very strong in their belief that what Oakville residents want is the best and the brightest working for them. We have a community that we think of as having very high expectations, and if there's one thing we worry about more, it's making sure that we meet those expectations.
Yeah, but best and brightest is great, but they're nice, which is really a treat. Makes it dealing with the town a lot more pleasant than it is in other circumstances.
Well, thank you very much. Gentlemen, it's been great talking to you, and in a minute we will come back with 3 members of Council, and we will consider how we can move things up the ladder of improvement. Thanks very much for watching so far. With us now are 3 members of Oakville's Council. Councillor Dave Gittings from Ward 3, which is the southeast part of town. Councillor Allan Elgar, who's from Ward 4, which is the northwest part of town. And Councillor Alan Johnston from Ward 1, which is the southwest part of town. On other shows, we'll have other councillors from other parts of town. And over the course of the series, you will meet and hear from everyone. Guys, you heard the residents' leaders in the earlier part of the panel, and they gave us some ideas for improving our customer service. or resident service or taxpayer service. I'm not sure what category we want to think of people as, but making it easier for people to figure out who does what they're after would require us to, by one suggestion, to not only list what we do, but list what everybody else does. And how do you feel about that?
Mayor, great idea. Often we find that people will express that the website can be a little daunting to find its way around. All the information is there in terms of the examples that were mentioned, but I think we could certainly do a better way of wayfinding to allow the citizens to find the information that much faster.
Right. So we, for example, already list my duties and the duties of members of council. And we have a page that you can find if you're diligent that lists the services the town provides and the services that the region provides. But I myself am not aware of a page that says, and here's what the province does and here's what the feds do. So with your approval and your colleagues, I'm sure we can get the town website to reveal those things as well. Councillor Elgar?
Yeah, I actually I heard what the residents have said, and I do think we've kind of moved forward on that. In that, with our one-stop now ServiceOakville, they actually will direct people to the proper level of government, whether it be provincial or federal. At this point, we didn't used to have that before without ServiceOakville. By introducing that, I think it's really given the residents much more direction on where they can get the information they need. And they were, regarding airplane noise, it's a huge issue. I realize it's not within our control, but I do think as a council, we really have a responsibility to try to put pressure on the federal government to try to address all of the issues of what we can do to help.
Okay. Alan, in your experience in Bronte, what are the ways that you've heard from your residents that we can improve services?
Basically, again, the website is a big improvement. It's and the one-stop shopping of the ServiceOakville works really well.
So now, one of the things that we noticed in the ice storm was that the ability to phone to get your information was restrained by the number of lines into any place. So if everybody, there's 60,000 houses more or less in town, if 60,000 people try to call one service center, that isn't going to work very well. We already know that we need to increase our capacity there. We are running really two one-stop information centers. There's 311 and there's ServiceOakville. And ServiceOakville is behind its own unique phone number, 845-6601. Have you given some thought yet to whether we consolidate and how we consolidate and expand our resources so that we can handle another emergency?
Well, at this point, nothing has come to council yet on that issue. I think it's absolutely worth looking at. 311 is a number, but it's across all of Halton, and it will direct them to their proper places. But people in Oakville still call. They expect to call an Oakville number and get an Oakville person on the phone giving them direction. And I think our communications have to improve, and we got to be using Twitter more to get information out to the people, emails out to people instead of them having to call so that they have up-to-date information. And also, in the last ice storm, in a lot of areas, people didn't have electricity. Without electricity, people don't have the phones they used to have that they all require electricity today. So the phones aren't working. The internet isn't working if you're at home. So you're kind of dependent on the cell phone to keep things going.
So we did hear, and that does lead you back to the social media. So, as your mayor, one of the ideas that I'm anxious to develop and discuss with you and to get everybody thinking about is there's other ways to do 311 than the way we wound up doing it here in Oakville and Halton. In at least one other region, 311 is a local service, and so if you phone 311, you get your local municipality, not the upper tier municipality. And the three of us, Alan, and I, we actually are regional councillors as well. Do we want to think about changing the way we do 311? Do we want to make 311 be the ServiceOakville phone number? Alan?
I think we have to have that discussion. and not just with the region and the municipality, but with the hydro company, Oakville Hydro. I think they worked very well with town staff through the storm, and they need to be integrated into the solution as well.
Well, I can always trust a Scot to look for the most efficient solution, so that's good to have. Thank you. Dave, you have one of the most active roles as a councillor. Maybe it's because you're new, maybe it's because you're so dedicated, but I have this picture of you as being on the phone or at the door all day long with your constituents. What do you hear in terms of ways to improve? And you represent an area that's not shy about asking for what it wants.
And I'm thankful for that. It is an incredible area, and what I find is that we all know the frustration. We've all experienced frustration with service providers, whether it be having your appliance fixed or having someone show up at your door. And people want to be informed if it's going to be delayed, or just give us an approximate time. During the storm, I sent out updates that we'd received from staff, sent them out through my e-letter, and I was amazed at the number of people that called me and said, "Thank you for the information." I hadn't sent it to them, but people had passed it around. So I agree with the other councillors in terms of the need for getting it out in as many ways as we can, so we can keep people up to date. Personal service is what I'm all about. I hear great stories about our staff on an ongoing basis, that our staff were kind, they were respectful, they were there, they did a great job. And I think our residents are our customers, and they deserve that.
Well, the thing I've noticed about everyone on council over the last 8 years is the dedication to continuous improvement, and that's why I tend to always ask my questions around how can we make things better. I know that Allan and Alan, you're on Twitter, right?
Correct.
What's your Twitter handle?
Alan Johnston. Very simple.
Allan Elgar, what's your Twitter handle?
It's easy, at Allan Elgar.
And Dave?
I'm not on Twitter currently.
Are you thinking about it?
Well, I am thinking about it. I receive a lot of emails. I try to return the emails via phone call as opposed to email. I just find it more personal. But if there's a need there, be anxious to hear from people whether they'd like that.
Well, are you finding social media useful to you?
Yes, I am. Again, through the storm, tweeted out updates on what was happening around town, and people appreciate that.
Now, do you find social media like Twitter more efficient than email? Because it seems to be, Twitter in a way is like an email blast, right?
For general information, it does not replace one-on-one problems or situations where you have to deal with one particular constituent.
And does your Twitter header give contact information for people to go one-on-one with you?
Yes, it does.
What about you, Alan?
Not one-on-one, no. But I also, I have a fairly extensive email list, and I find it at this point anyway, it's much more effective at blasting out a couple of thousand emails to people and giving them updates, and they do appreciate it.
So do you then do both, or do you still focus like Dave on email and telephone and one-on-one?
I'm more on one-on-one and email to the people, and the Twitter not so much, because it's, again, if anybody on Twitter realizes you can get a few hundred of them a day, unless you happen to see it, you don't know, it's too far down the list, you don't even look. So I'm finding the email for me works very well, and it allows the people also to send it out to their own distribution list, whether it be schools or whatever.
So if people want to get on your email distribution list, they're going to have to send their email address to you.
And they do that.
So what is your email address to send it to you?
Well, the easiest one is just allan@elgar.ca.
And what about you, Dave?
Dave@gittings.ca. And as Councillor Elgar mentioned, it's a great way because you send the information out. The Residents Association may forward that to their residents. And it's a wonderful way, very simple way for a resident to click on reply. They may not have a question or concern with what's in the newsletter, but it allows them the opportunity to ask something that they've been wondering about.
Okay. And Alan Johnston, what's your email contact if people want to get on your email list?
Alan@allanjohnston.ca.
You guys have really gone for the personal identity level. I should point out that the other members of council, the other 9 members of council, have their preferred contact information on the council webpage on oakville.ca. And so you can certainly look there for the other fellows and gals. I just heard a funny message in my ear, but it went away. Now, we also have a council newsletter that we put out twice a year, Let's Talk Oakville. And each of you treat it differently. And do you find value from that? Do you get feedback from Let's Talk Oakville?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes. Actually, we changed it a few years ago. It used to be individual ward newsletters, and we went to one town newsletter. And the people in Bronte appreciate the information we give them about their local community, but they also appreciate hearing what else is happening around town.
Okay. Alan?
Yes, I think that the way we've reformatted the newsletter, it's a lot more use to the people to read. They can get the broader issues, but in our ward it's more area specific, which is what I want to keep happening. That it's actually our words, and it's not the words of town staff. It's the words from the councillor.
So what kind of feedback do you get from it?
It's very positive. People appreciate getting the newsletter. The only other issue is, it used to be our timing was very bad. It would always happen as the first week children were back in school, so the residents were too busy. So I think we've sharpened up a little bit there, and we're getting it at a time when it will be read more. That was the complaint we had a few years ago, where it's coming at the wrong time of year.
Okay. Dave, do you get any feedback from it?
Well, I agree with what the other councillors said in terms of people appreciate hearing about what's happening in all of Oakville, not just our individual ward. And what people may not realize is that most of the items that we write about are a result of what residents have asked us about. So it's not what we feel is important, it's based on what residents have said that they'd like to hear about.
So what are the most important things or the most frequent things that you hear from residents as to what the issues are?
Well, I can start by this past year. It was regarding snow, and that's where we have reacted. We used to have we didn't plow the street unless there was 10 centimeters of snow, and we just passed it in the budget back in December that we will start plowing at 7.5 meters of snow. So we're in line with other municipalities.
7.5 centimeters.
Centimeters, yes. That's, yeah. Yeah, that's 7.5 inches, just a little bit too much.
All right. What are you hearing as the big issue?
There's 3 main issues, I think, not just in Bronte, but possibly throughout Oakville, would be traffic, taxis, and controlling growth.
What about you, Dave?
We have a number of issues. The other evening we decided what's going to happen with the Lynbrook school lands. We still have to work on Brantwood and Chisholm. We've got the hospital lands, which is a massive undertaking. The downtown cultural hub is of great interest. We have a lot of activity in Ward 3 that people are very interested and concerned about.
So the downtown cultural hub and the streetscape work that Council unanimously launched as part of Vision 2057 and Livable Oakville clearly will benefit the downtown, and your ward being beside it, I can see your ward being vitally interested in it. But Alan and Alan, in your wards, do people care about the health of the downtown?
Yes, they do. Indeed, and that's a big issue in Bronte, and I have to compliment town staff who have stepped up to institute a business improvement plan in conjunction with the BIA and looking at ways to improve the economic viability of the downtown core.
So in your case, you're talking now about the Bronte downtown village, right?
Correct.
So we're not working just on the Oakville downtown, but as well on the Bronte one. But in Southwest Oakville, do people care about the health of the downtown Oakville village?
Yes, they do. They care about the economic health throughout the town.
What about you, Alan? In the Northwest, are people feeling totally separate from what goes on in the downtown village and the harbor and the town square and all of that?
Well, it's interesting to say that. I think the people in Glen Abbey and throughout Glen Abbey West and over to Palermo, everybody likes the downtown. They like the quaintness of it. It's a lot like Niagara-on-the-Lake, the downtown, and they want to keep that. And I think today we all know a lot of people go to the shopping malls, where it's easy to park and get things and get back home again. But people like the downtown. You never hear anything negative about the downtown core. But the other residents also want is they want lots of green space left in their ward, which has been eaten up. But and they're also very happy the hospital is coming. You know, like that's a really positive thing for Northwest Oakville. But.
So, in your contact with your residents, what kind of ideas have you heard, or criticisms have you heard, of the downtown Oakville business district and the cultural facilities that we have there? What ways to improve are you hearing?
Well, I must say that if you're saying, well, how much is this going to cost us as taxpayers? But a lot of people are saying we don't want it to change. Which is kind of interesting. They love the height of the buildings, how the buildings look, the quaintness, and pleased that Oakville didn't get into the cement era of back 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. So, well, let's give a little bit of reassurance to the residents on the cost element. We have a road there whose foundations have now crumbled, and it's part of our scheduled infrastructure maintenance, and it's funded. We have to rebuild the road, but when we rebuild the road, there's an opportunity to rebuild it any number of ways that could enhance the experience of everyone when they come downtown. And so, just to be clear, what we're working together to do is to try to figure out how to spend the money it's going to take to rebuild the road in the most effective and attractive way. And that's why it's so important that we get the feedback of the residents. That's why it's so important that you guys get out there and make sure that if there are ideas that you get people to bring them in or bring them in for them. Alan?
One thing I'm hearing is the library sites in Centennial Plaza could be updated, and what I'm hearing from residents is they'd like the riverfront to be more walkable and take away the hard surface, the parking lots and the road and what have you.
What about trying to create a waterside activity that was, more than walking, say a licensed patio or some other kind of waterside attraction?
We recently had a meeting at Town Hall where we had 150 odd people that were there in breakout groups, and they had their pens and their markers and their sticky notes, and we heard some incredible ideas from people from all over the town. And that was one of the very things, that they'd like it to be more welcoming and a space where they could spend more time.
Councillors, thanks very much for sharing this time with our viewers, and thank you for watching our show. I hope you'll tune in next time when we discuss how council matters.